What's up, YouTube? J Dill here. So, this is kind of my response to many people who would say, well, what kind of God do you serve that lets all this pain and suffering go on and does nothing about it? And, there's a quote, can't remember who it's by, but it basically says, a God who can do something and won't is evil and is full of malice. A God who can't do something but would like to is not omnipotent, and it's let me go over some of the reasons why I think and truly believe that God does allow things that we would consider to be bad happen, but also why He needs to. So, during the week of creation, He set up all the physical laws that we now abide by and use in our modern day-to-day life. The laws He set up, we would not be able to have electricity and many other modern advances if He did not leave those laws in effect. So, if light always moves forward. It doesn't randomly move backwards. It'll move forward. It will bounce off of something, but it is acted upon with forces just the same as something else. A photon of light will hit a wall based on the angle of trajectory. It'll bounce off. It'll hit another part of the wall, bounce off. That's all those photons are bouncing off of everything. That's why we are able to see. Imagine if you turned on a flashlight and instead of the light going forward and spreading outward, it went behind you. What if you turned a flashlight on, click, and everything in front of you is dark, but everything behind you is illuminated? But it didn't always do that. Every now and then, you flick the light on, it went in front of you, every now and then it went behind you. That would be chaos. How are you going to function? That law, that property of light, always stays the same under normal atmospheric conditions. I mean, the only way that changes, light obviously is going to bend if it's around a black hole, but that's an extreme field of gravity. I mean, under Earth conditions, light's always going forward. Gravity is always going to pull things towards the center. Imagine if when you jumped, gravity accelerated you towards the sky instead of accelerating you towards the center of the Earth. That would be pretty hard to get around. Solids, liquids, and gases, they all have specific properties that, of course, they change based on what pressure and temperature they're in. But I mean, water is always going to be under normal atmospheric pressure. It's always going to be a liquid at room temperature. It's always going to be a gas after a boiling temperature. It's always going to be a solid when it's at freezing temperature. I mean, that does not change. Heat energy will equalizes at an expected rate depending on the highs and lows. Imagine if we're endothermic. We are able to control our own body temperature. But imagine if heat energy didn't always equalize at the same temperature. Everything's always going towards equilibrium. Imagine, though, if your body's, normal body temperature, you walk into a freezer and you heat up. What if you're at normal body temperature? And what if things didn't always change at an expected rate? What if you're hot, you're warm, your average body temperature, it's in the middle of winter. You walk outside and you immediately freeze to death because those rates don't always stay constant. Do you see where I'm getting at? God set in law, in motion, laws that have to remain in place for certain reasons. He has given us free will. He's given us the intelligence to understand these laws and to apply them in our lives. In understanding that if I jump, I'm always going to fall back down. If I start a fire, the light's always going to emanate outwards. I mean, so on and so forth. He set these laws in motion so that we could live in an ordered manner rather than in chaos. So let's go over some of the things that are bad. Okay, shootings. Shootings are horrible. It's never a good thing when people get hurt or killed. But here's a question. If when you shot a gun or threw a rock or threw anything or moved forward? What if when you applied a force in one direction, instead of the object moving in that direction, it moved in the opposite direction? Guns. Good example. What if when you shot a gun, instead of it shooting at the target, the target, the deer, the whatever you're trying to shoot, what if the bullet shot backwards? What if it shot to the left or to the right? God has given us free will. So if God stepped in and changed his physical laws every time that we were about to mess up, don't you think that would cause some chaos? If God saw that, hey, we're about to step on a nail, I should probably make his force go the opposite direction. Okay, that's would that be great? That'd be great. We would never step on nails. We would never get shot, whatever. But I mean, how could you live like that, never knowing what was going to happen based on given laws? I know for a fact that the sun's not going to, stop shining for millions of years. It's got so much fuel. I know for a fact the Earth's going to continue rotating and continue revolving around the sun. I can go to sleep. If I slept for 3 days, when I wake up, it's 3 days later. It's not 1 day later. It's because God set those laws in motion. Let's go over drownings. What if water wasn't always liquid below 100 degrees Celsius? Like under atmospheric pressure. So, that's an issue there. Like, what if you jumped in a pool and it turned to ice immediately? I mean, like, it's just, these things have to remain in place. Drownings are horrible, but what if God, every time someone was about to drown, he just made the water jelly-like so they could float to the top, or I don't know, maybe they made them more buoyant. I mean, it's just, we have to live off of what can be expected. What if every time you started to make a bad decision or hurt someone in any way, God stopped you? You wouldn't have free will then, would you? It's no free will. It's if we didn't have the physical laws that God set in motion, it would be chaotic. Although torture and pain is horrible, we can also rely on it. We can expect that if I stick a hot poker to my arm, as long as my pain receptors are working fine, that's gonna hurt. I know that when I get up in the morning, when I apply a force backwards, I'm going to move forward. When I push my legs down, I'm going to go forward. I'm not going to go backwards. I know that if I walk out into a cold environment, I have a certain amount of time before my body temperature becomes so low that I become hypothermic. So, it's not that God neither cares and is neither willing nor able to do something about the hardship that we find in life. It's that he loves us enough to let us learn on our own and not force a chaos on us in which we would never know up from down and from left from right. So, if you agree with the statements in this video, if you disagree with it, either way, please leave a comment down below. Please rate, comment, share, and subscribe. God bless y'all.